is the other thing that is really amazing, is that it's where are the weeks flying by, right? So in tonight's group call, we're going to focus on nutrition. And I really want, and this is such a key cornerstone for anyone that is over 40, no matter what, nutrition becomes such a huge thing for us, and really nailing our nutrition so that we balance our hormones and that we optimize our health. And so it is something that we don't really worry so much about, so to speak, in our 20s and 30s, in our teens, 20s, we do whatever we want. In our 30s, maybe we are becoming more aware of it. By the time we're in our 40s, things start to change a lot. If they haven't already, perimenopause kicks in sometime, somewhere between 5 to 10 years before menopause. And so hormones become a big role in aging well and feeling well and gut health and all of those things. So if we're really not following, let's say, a balanced optimal regimen, or nutrition or meal plan or anything like so to speak, when we're hitting our 40s, it's no wonder that hormones typically start to kind of go a little bit out of whack, because not only are we not balancing with the foods that we're not eating or eating, but we are also then compounding everything with hormones. And we are also hitting midlife time, where stress becomes another big thing that plays such a huge role. And I know myself personally, I can manage through the day, but I have a lot of, I would think, how do I describe it the best? Like, I want to say hidden stress. I don't have panic attacks. Some people really truly have a lot of, have to deal with that as well. But there's stress in all of our lives. We are all busy. And plus, we're working, plus we're doing lots of other things. So there's a hormone, we call it the stress hormone. It's called cortisol, and it can contribute to stress fat. And that is a real thing. And that could be around the midsection that starts to show up. And so these are all things. So we're going to talk tonight, we're going to really zone in on nutrition, basically nutrition 101. And we're going to break it all down in really simple forms to think and to really better understand how we need to, how we can balance through the foods that we eat, how we can boost our metabolism, how we can actually, a lot of times our metabolism can feel dormant, which is why we see that gradual weight gain or feeling sluggish or tired, into our 40s, 50s, 60s, if we're not doing this. So this is a real key thing. And nutrition, when you look at the overall wellness, again, I want to come back around, there's an 80-20 rule that things don't have to be perfect, but you want to nail the nutrition and really understand what foods are really good for you and what foods should go together, and what foods maybe are like the occasional sometimes foods, right? Like that's the 20%, right? And think of nutrition, think of food as fuel. I know we grow up having, we celebrate with food, we love food. Food is comfort food. There's some of us love sweets, some of us like salty foods. Like, there's all the things. Stress can also play a role and help make, we can navigate to that fridge or the cupboards if we're under stress and not recognizing that it's emotional eating, and or we're just looking for that comfort. So, or ask yourself, are you truly hungry? And so I really want you to think about nutrition as food is fuel. So it's like nutritional medicine for your body, and period. That is all it is. That is what it is. because what happens when we eat, our bodies will break down that food and take the food, break down the food and take the energy, convert the energy into fuel for our body. That is what it does. So, and metabolism is a process of how that happens in our body, and at the rate of how our body uses the food that we eat and converting it to energy, into fuel. So it's just a process. So if we are active, our metabolism is going to be higher. Our body will use that food faster. If we are not as active, our body will more likely, our metabolism is slower, will more likely store fat, and will store the food that we're eating as fat, especially if we're not eating many calories. Many of us are eating in deficit. Many, especially ladies, we're afraid to eat. We've grown up thinking, in the Barbie and Ken era, like that's what I equate to, is like thinking skinny is the end thing. No, it's strong is the new skinny. And we actually do need to really flip that mindset, that switch, that food is an enemy. It is not. We just need education around what we can do to really power up our metabolism, to burn the fat, to burn the food, you burn the fuel, and burn instead of store fat, right? And so, Karen, I think it was you who mentioned that you're scared of carbs, and that's a real thing. Like, people really truly are. And so we have to understand that not all food is created equal. And so when we look at the different parts of the nutrition, we're looking at protein, carbohydrates, and fats. That's the formula. And I always say that's my Fit Over 40 formula. That's one of them. I have a couple of formulas. That one is key. And it is so key because you want to make sure you're pairing a protein with a carbohydrate all the time. That is every time you eat. And you want to also include healthy fats 2 to 3 times a day. So over a course of a day, depending on your activity level, you're going to eat somewhere between I would think, 4 meals to 6 meals a day. Sometimes people are eating more, grazing more. If they're very, like, say, high-end athletes, they may need more, smaller meals, more frequent, but on average, it's 4 to 6 meals a day. And so that is going to be kind of the range. And so I typically aim for about 5 myself personally. And that would be a breakfast, lunch, dinner, and a snack in the morning and a snack in between. And again, it depends on your schedule, it depends on your range, but you want to try to eat somewhere every 2 to 3 hours. That will keep your blood sugar at a steady state. So I'm going to break it down now in terms of the quality of the foods you eat matters. And so not all foods are created equal. So if food is nutritional medicine for the body, and if our body then is converting that food into energy, and then our body's using the energy to do all our metabolic functions just to live, but then if we're active, we're going to use more. And we want to have our metabolism working for us. We want to optimize all our internal organs, our systems, our pancreas, right? The pancreas is the one that releases insulin when we eat. So as soon as we eat a meal, that pancreas is going to release insulin to help break down the food in our body. We'll release hormone to help break that down and convert to fuel. And so if we're not eating the right kind of foods, again, it's a signal to the body to do a couple of things. Use the food as fuel and keep that metabolism at a steady state. The food that we've taken in will either spike that insulin high and drop off quickly, or it will spike the insulin, which is normal, but more at a mid-range, and then convert and steady state blood sugar. That is actually what we want. We do not want that high spikes. It's okay occasionally, but if we're constantly eating carbs like full of sugar, refined sugars, high fats, different things like that, where carbs that are out of a box or processed, right? A lot of sodium, salt, sugars in them. That is what is going to spike that insulin. And we call that or dysregulated blood sugar. And it's going to wreak havoc over time if we're constantly doing that with our body. Our pancreas will be overtaxed or overworked. And eventually, if there's a lot of that happening, and I'm sure you've heard of diabetes before, and maybe even know somebody who has it, or borderline diabetes, where that body, the blood sugar, the sugar is too high in the bloodstream. And so if the pancreas doesn't have a chance to work and bring that blood sugar down, if it can't, over time, the pancreas will stop functioning, and that blood sugar will remain high, which is why then we're injecting insulin or taking insulin medication to bring that blood sugar down. So we don't want that happening. We want to actually control, and we can control this. We can control it. If you're in a metabolic pre-diabetes metabolic state where your sugars are on the higher side, if you've had blood work done in the past or in the near future, you can control this. So it's all about what you actually put in your body. And so I'm going to go through a couple of things here, and I'm going to share my screen because I think this is going to be really good to show. And this here is my high vibe principles for daily nutrition. So basically what to do. And this is just a snapshot. And then I'm going to break it down to protein, carbs, and fats. We're going to get right to that. So like I said, eat smaller meals, 5 to 6 a day. That range, it could be 4 to 6. I think, 5 is ideal. Go for 6. If you're hungry at nighttime, you just don't want to have a heavy meal before bed. They kind of say like, because if we eat a meal just before bed, we're actually then our body's working at digesting instead of resting, right? So we want to probably aim to have our last meal a couple of hours before bed at the latest. Breakfast every day, non-negotiable, within an hour of waking. It is essential. So now if you do a workout first thing, like I work out first thing, I have my coffee, my workout, then I have my breakfast. And that's, within an hour of my workout, I'm having my breakfast. If you don't work out first thing, have your breakfast within an hour. The body starts coming out of that fasting state because you've just had a sleep. And so you do want it looking for fuel. It's looking for food. So it's very important. Protein and complex carbs at every meal. I've mentioned that. Healthy fats 2 to 3 times a day. So 2 to 3 times a day, you're going to add healthy fats. Lots of greens whenever you can. Lots and lots of greens, like spinach, kale, Swiss chard, like green beans, anything like that. Lots of water, 2 to 3 liters a day. A rule of thumb I have is I always drink water like a full glass before a meal. And when I wake up in the morning, that's what I do. I have full glass right away. I have a coffee, and then I'm still drinking water throughout the day in between. Water's hydration. Hydrate, and it flushes out our system. Now, you could also, first thing in the morning, add lemon, right? That just also flushes toxins, right? And helps the digestive system kind of clean out. Meal prep, save time and energy. Lots of whole foods. We're going to get into that. Foods with fiber. You'll see when we talk about carbs, why this is so important, really important for gut health and digestion. And I know that it seems like a no-brainer, but it's really important what to do less of, eliminate. And if there's anything that you're struggling with, like if there's a struggle with weight, wanting to lose weight, or the energy, some of the things that you could do right away that can have such dramatic results. If you're not eating often, make sure you're starting to eat often. Eat breakfast. That's a big thing. But you can completely cut out sugar and watch your body change. Strike sugar for 30 days, read the labels, eliminate sugar completely. I'm not saying you have to. I'm just saying if there's one way to really start to kind of take gut health is a big deal. So this becomes a really big deal with gut health because sugar feeds inflammation. And so if we're eating a lot of processed foods from even like canned corn, for example, there's preservatives in the canned vegetables, right? So we want to aim for anything whole and good, that is high nutrient dense foods, right? So whole foods with lots of nutrients, good nutrient value, not low value. Limit the refined sugars, the cakes, the cookies, those kind of things, any artificial sugars, saturated fats, things like that will clog your arteries, right? We don't want that. We want to think heart healthy. We do need fats, but of the right ones. So really reducing or eliminating sugary drinks, pops, juices. There's so much stuff. I think about my kids now in their teens, and all they can think of are these energy drinks, and they're loaded with sugar. Alcohol is another one. And and just overall consider foods that, again, the 80-20 rule. We are all human. We want to build a lifestyle of sustainable habits. We don't want to feel so much restriction. We want to be mindful with our choices, because if we restrict ourselves, it almost does the complete opposite of what we are intending to do. Because when we feel restricted and we can't have something, sometimes we rebound and it comes back to haunt us, right? Any questions so far?
I do have a comment. The list that you have,
Yes.
is that something you could email?
Yeah, I can drop that in the group too, for sure. Yes,
okay.
No problem. I can definitely do that. I can definitely do that for you.
Like, I've jotted some stuff down, but it's nice to have that as a reminder.
Yes, for sure. Okay.
I don't have my memory's a little short, so.
That is no problem at all, Karen. Okay.
Thank you.
So you are very welcome. Okay, so when we talk about, and we're just going to break it down, and I'm going to try and keep this super simple. And I know some of you are catching this on the replay. So if you have questions after tonight's session, just let me know. I'm happy to answer any questions. So protein is essentially our building blocks. Protein is fuel for muscle. Protein is really the foundation of our wellness, and really important to preserve muscle mass, to build stronger muscles, to help with metabolic functions in our body. Protein also keeps us satisfied, meaning when we eat protein, we actually can go longer. We don't feel as hungry. Now, when we pair a protein with a carbohydrate, a complex carbohydrate, the two of them together are magical. I want to make a quick mention, though, about protein sources. And I don't want to I'm not going to go deep into this, but we have protein sources that are complete proteins. That mean they have all of the essential nutrients that the body needs to build and repair tissues, make enzymes, hormones, and do other body chemical reactions, right? But not all protein sources are created equal. So we've got complete protein sources. Complete means they have all 9 essential amino acids. And those are complete proteins are considered animal-based complete proteins. They are considered, these are animal-based complete proteins. So meats, things like beef, pork, lamb, other meats, chicken, turkey, duck, other poultry, fish, seafood, salmon, tuna, other stuff, eggs, particularly egg whites I don't know if you watched me or if I've mentioned often, but egg whites are a big deal to me. I will eat an egg yolk, but you'll often, my kids see me, like I buy the cartons of egg whites because it is such good protein and it's versatile. So eggs, especially the egg whites, dairy products like milk, cheese, yogurt, and dairy products. So those are also included in protein. And then there's plant-based proteins that are also complete proteins, like quinoa. That's a grain, but it's a complete protein. Soy products like tofu, tempeh, edamame, buckwheat, that's also like a grain, but it's a seed. Chia seeds, so they have a high protein content as well. So these are wonderful sources of protein. Hemp seeds are in there as well. And the incomplete, not that we need a balance. So when we eat sources, so these are more like legumes, nuts, seeds, other grains, vegetables. Some vegetables have protein in them. So you'll notice if you ever look at different food sources and you're seeing what the breakdown is between a protein, carb, and fat within a specific food, you'll notice that sometimes they land as a protein and a fat together, or a carbohydrate and a fat, like, or a carb and a protein. Like you'll see them kind of overlapping in different groups. What's important to note is that we want to balance our proteins. So no matter where we're eating or getting our protein sources from, we want to balance them. We want to make sure that we're eating enough protein, because protein, the benefit of protein is for muscle repair and growth. So we know that protein feeds our muscles, and it also helps our muscles repair. So after we do a workout, especially a strength training workout, one that maybe we're feeling a little bit sore the next day, protein is going to help our muscles repair. Protein also helps to enhance immune function. So it supports our immune system by providing amino acids to our body for supporting immune function, and balanced nutrition. So it also promotes overall health. So proteins, if there's any big takeaway from tonight, protein, I cannot blast it loud enough. And it is something that there is often a deficit. And when I'm following my clients' nutrition, often there's still a deficit of protein. So when we're tracking protein, whether we're just following a meal plan or we're tracking using an actual app or a tracker, what I want you to do is protein at every meal. That is a non-negotiable. Every meal, protein. Protein is so important for us, and it is a non-negotiable. Okay. Any questions about that?
No.
Excellent. Okay, let's get to the carbs, because carbs have gotten a bad rap in the past. And there's been so much hype about eat this carb, don't eat this carb, keto diet, like intermittent fasting, like low carb, no carb. Like there's been so much over the years. So now we have to really think about where we are now, and what our body needs. So maybe we heard all of those things throughout the last 20 years. At some point, we started to believe, and it started to show up in the media. And of course, people are going to try things. And of course, there's still different, I call them diets, out there, because people are still trying things, but those are short-term quick fixes. Maybe it's going to help you drop 10 pounds, but it's not sustainable. When we exclude carbs from our body, from our meal plan, when we exclude carbs, we are actually putting our body, especially in our 40s and beyond, out of whack. We are not balancing our nutrition. Therefore, our hormones will not be balanced. Therefore, our metabolism, it does crazy things. What you need to know about carbs are fuel for the body. Okay, so carbs are fuel. So if we are eliminating carbs, especially if we're not eating breakfast or not really loading up on our carbs in the earlier part of our day, we are potentially going to experience headaches, mood swings, sometimes nausea, brain fog is a big one, just lack of focus. Our carbs, our body is like a car. We need to put fuel in it. So not just any old breakfast. So I'm going to mention this because it just popped into my mind. If you're having a yogurt tube or the yogurt dish with a little granola for breakfast, that is not going to cut it. We're going to talk about what good examples of breakfast can be. But that little bit of yogurt yes, it might have protein in it. Yes, it might have some fat in it. And it's a carb, right? Like you can look at all the things, you're like, oh, there's everything there that I need. Maybe I threw a little bit of seeds on it or nuts on it too, and I got everything I need. It is just not enough for our first meal of the day. That could potentially be a snack, right? So we really have to understand what we should be or could be doing to optimize our health. Now, carbohydrates are not all created equal. That is the thing. And that is where the education comes in, is that when we understand what a carb is, what it does for our body, good or bad, then we will be making more mindful choices of the food. So carbohydrates, we want to look at carbohydrates and what they are. So carbohydrates, there's complex carbohydrates and there's simple carbs. So I will talk about that. But carbohydrates offer fiber and digestion. So fiber-packed carbs like whole grains, quinoa, sweet potato, yam, brown rice, legumes, they keep our energy level high and they keep our digestion in check. So that is actually good for gut health, right? Many of us are dealing with stomach aches, stomach pains. We really got to zone in on what are we doing. I mentioned sugar earlier, so eliminating sugar can really optimize gut health. It can really help to get a handle on things, calm things down. Another big one to consider if you're having digestive issues is dairy. I'm not saying you're intolerant to it. It's just dairy also can have some sugar in it, but dairy can naturally cause some upset with the gut. So those are two things that you could be looking at if there's some issues with stomach, with gut health. So fiber and digestion, glycemic index. So all carbs have a glycemic index. And so low glycemic carbs provide steady energy. So that is what we want to regulate blood sugar control. We want blood sugar control through the day. If we don't have blood sugar control, we're going to have those high spikes with high glycemic carbs. Well, like say if I ate a whole bunch of chips or cookies, right? Like they're out of a package. And I'm just like, oh, just put them in. I'm so hungry, eat whatever. Or even, white toast, like bread, that kind of thing, bun, like I'm just on the run. I got to just grab whatever, quick, convenient. That is going to cause our insulin to spike. So high glycemic carbohydrate, that is white sugar, refined sugars, flours, spike our insulin. We're going to have it high, but we're going to end up having a crash. That insulin, that sugar will drop. Our blood sugar will drop fast. So sometimes, and often we hear of that midday crash. That is potentially what is happening. The blood sugar is not regulated. So when we eat foods that have low glycemic index, carbohydrates offer that steady state energy. Those are the ones we want. We want those 80% of the time. Of course, if you want to have a piece of birthday cake, cookie, whatever, yes, it's just not all the time, right? Understanding what works well, when, and when you're eating is a big deal. And so carbohydrates that are like, how I keep it simple in my mind if there's a carbohydrate, we know basically what proteins are, right? So when you think about carbohydrates, and this could also include vegetables because there's a combo there, but we think about carbs that are simple carbs, they're in a package. They are processed. They are full of extra sugars or chemicals or salts. You know, it's the crackers, the cookies, the candies, those kind of things, right? So we have to, you know, really be mindful of what it is that we're eating. Even the white rice, right? It's white, it's refined, it's not a natural state, it's been stripped. Whole grains are different, whole grain breads are different. And so I too, you know, also would recommend looking and thinking of things that are of the whole natural state. And carbohydrates, I think of oats right away. I love my oatmeal at breakfast, and I like the large cooking oats. Even the steel cut oats are even better, but they take a little longer to process, right? And to cook, or maybe you can do overnight oats. But if you're taking, say, you know, the little Quaker oat packages that are, you know, they've got extra sugars in. So those are quick and almost instant. Those are not going to be the low glycemic carb. That's not going to be a low glycemic carb. Yes, it's an oat, but it's refined and added sugar. So you really want those large flake oats. You can make lots of things. You can bake oatmeal. You can make it ahead of time. You can make oatmeal cookies, but those are the oats that you want to go for. You also can choose things like a sweet potato, yam. Those are often what I add for my lunch if I have a protein. So let's say if it was a chicken salad or chicken boil, I will add sweet potato to it. I'll cut it up in cubes. I'll roast it ahead of time or just bake it. And then I add that. Or if it's not a sweet potato, I'll add rice, brown rice to it. I very rarely eat white rice, just I don't find it does anything for me, and it's really a low nutritional value. So I'm going for carbs that offer that steady state with protein, so always with the protein. And it's amazing how you can regulate your blood sugar, but you have that steady energy throughout the day. And then nighttime is no different. It's the protein plus a carbohydrate. And if I'm not feeling like a carbohydrate at dinner, then I add more vegetables and protein. It just depends on my activity level, but carbs are good. Carbs are not our enemy. It's really trying to flip our mindset for what we have heard, the stories that we believe to be true, and now see the value in eating balanced for our bodies to regulate hormones. So if when we don't regulate our hormones, when we don't have that steady state blood sugar, then the insulin comes into play, our metabolism, there's thyroid hormone as well. There's so many things that come into play that kind of chase each other. So we want to make sure we're balancing our nutrition. Do you have any questions about carbs?
Legumes. What are legumes? They're peas, beans.
Yes, great
or are we
question.
talking
Yes.
soybeans and excuse me.
Yes. So common sources. Oh, and this is actually something I could drop in a note as well of examples after this
I
tonight.
would appreciate that.
Yeah, I will do that. The
Of
other
all
thing,
of it.
yeah, the other thing that, so I'll just drop in like some of these key pieces because to a lot of information can be overwhelming. We try and keep it simple. The other thing about carbohydrates, and I had mentioned, it's digestion, fiber. So when we're thinking about a carb, the reason why I love oats is because it's good for not only the regulating blood sugar, but it has fiber. How it promotes gut health, right? Promotes wellness, right, inside the body. And so and with the fiber, so the foods with fiber, the carbs with fiber are going to be your friend. So things like oats, oatmeal, oat bran, fruits. The fruits are carbs. These are my go-to fruits are apples, pears, berries, bananas, and Oranges. I often will eat, like, any of the berries have fiber. I will often have an apple or a pear in the afternoon with almonds. Those are my go-to, right? Because you've got your carbs plus the fiber in the food, right? In the carb, but you've also got then with the almonds, or you can pair it with natural peanut butter or a nut butter, you'll have your protein and a healthy fat. So you can pair things like that. You can also add a cottage cheese to that there, or a yogurt. There's no issue there. Legumes, beans, lentils, peas.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah. Nuts and seeds, vegetables. Soluble fiber is actually going to um, bring in water, like take in water, right? So an insoluble fiber, it does not dissolve in water, so it adds bulk. So we need carbs that have fiber, both soluble and insoluble. So you don't need to really worry about that. But the
So how often would
insoluble
you have
fiber,
legumes?
what's that?
How often would you have legumes then?
You could have legumes every day if you wanted to, but that again, it depends if that is, I'm just going to check my source here. If it is a complete, legumes are an incomplete protein source. So that means that you actually can't get all of your protein just from legumes. So you would really need to balance with other, you don't want to only eat incomplete proteins, you want complete proteins as well from other plant sources or meat sources as well. So it's a balance. It's learning what goes with what. And I can provide you with one simple guide with all the
Oh,
foods
I'd like
and the
that because
columns. Yeah.
my chicken scratches are getting a bit disorganized.
Yeah,
So
you don't have to worry about so much about notes here. That's all good. Okay. And so again, so carbs are really important because they provide us with energy, fiber, aid in digestion. They're important for gut health, right? And so we want to make sure that we are really, really understanding our foods. And now some foods, and I was saying some foods have a low rise in blood sugar, others can have a moderate, and some can have a rapid spike. So it really depends on understanding what type of carbohydrate it is and what type of foods will actually offer you let's say the most bang for your buck, right? So low GI foods, glycemic index foods, these are the ones that you want more of, are things like vegetables. So there's some veggies are carbs and with lots of fiber. Thinking of things like broccoli, spinach, kale. Most fruits fall into the low GI, right? So apples, oranges, berries, pears. Legumes fall in there. Chickpeas, lentils, beans, whole grains, barley, quinoa, steel cut oats or oats, nuts and seeds. So then you've got the medium GI foods, and we don't want to get too hung up on this, but these are the ones that I always have, and I always have typically for my breakfast, lunch, and dinner. So whole wheat products, things like pasta, whole grain, bread, brown rice, sweet potatoes. There's some fruits in there too. High glycemic. Oh, I want to mention about pasta. It all comes down to two portion control. So when we're eating, I know when I was a kid, we always ate a lot of spaghetti and it was white spaghetti. So now there's different, pastas out there. It's not that pasta is bad at all, but try to choose pasta that is whole grain, and watch the portion control, because too much is going to then have not only sit in our stomach probably and feel uncomfortable, but spike that insulin and have an unregulated blood sugar. So we want to just be mindful of what we're doing. In fact, sometimes I love this little one. I swap zucchini. Great up. I spiral the noodles, the veggie noodles. I'll do zucchini or carrots or squash, whatever it is, into like a noodle. like a spaghetti. You can get the spiralizers, and it's amazing the food you can make with that. So good.
Now, what was the chickpeas? That's protein of some sort, I know. You're going to send the thing,
Yeah, I'm
aren't you?
gonna send you some stuff, Karen. No problem.
Okay,
I'll
that's a
drop
good
some
idea.
stuff. Yeah, I'll drop some
Perfect.
stuff. And
Thank
then
you.
fats are really, really important. Fats are really important because this is our body needs fat to burn fat. And so these are fats with omega-3s, right? Omega-3s reduce inflammation and support brain health. It is so important, like things like fish, flax seeds, walnuts, those type of things have omega-3 fatty acids. So they reduce inflammation and brain health. Really important for us. Saturated fats, smart choices. Really important to understand what foods have saturated fats versus an unsaturated fat, right? And we don't want trans fats. Those are artery clogging. So and again, we want to eat more of the healthy unsaturated fats and less of the saturated fats. So thinking of the unsaturated, these are promoting heart health and reducing cholesterol levels, and they lower heart risk. So I'm thinking, so here we go. So unhealthy fats are things like processed foods, margarine, shortening, partially hydrogenated oils, foods that are like cookies, cakes, pastries. They will contain saturated fats, fried foods, anything fried. I know we love the deep fryer, some of us, but air fryer is the way to go. Baking foods, adding olive oil, coconut oil, things like that, instead of frying foods and deep frying foods, right? So I know some of it is common sense, but we really do, it can be very easy as well to open up that bag of chips, and before you know it, it's gone. And then we beat ourselves up for it. It's like the 80-20 rule. So we want to balance most of the time, 80% of the time, try and balance with whole foods, good foods. And really it's the recipe for menopause. It really is. Balanced nutrition is the recipe for that. And we want to really think about protein, carbohydrate all the time, pairing together, healthy fats 2 or 3 times a day as well. So we're eating 5 to 6 times a day. And that is what we do. And actually, one thing maybe I could give me an example. Another example too. We can also, you might also have heard the term macros. And those macros are the protein, the carb, the fats that we need. The micros, so they're macronutrients. We need those in our body, and we need that. So we need the protein for power. Think carbohydrates for energy. Think healthy fats for stamina, and vitality, right, for energy. When we think about micronutrients, those are the nutrients, the vitamins, the minerals that our body also needs, but perhaps we're not getting enough of them through our food sources as well. So sometimes we supplement with vitamins that are bought in the pharmacy. So I'm just checking my notes here to see what else. Now here's something maybe important to mention. I did note this and I want to mention it. When our nutrition is not balanced, this is why it's so important. So if we are not eating enough protein, this can lead to muscle loss, and it can also decrease our metabolism. And it can also make it harder for us to maintain a healthy weight because our body is confused. Our metabolism will be slow. We might feel very sluggish. We're very fatigued. So our body is in fat storage mode. It's just not thriving. We're feeling like we're just surviving. But protein deficiency is a really big thing. And like I said, it's something that I've identified. I'm certain if I did a survey and looked at meal diaries of 20 people, I bet you 3/4 would have a nutrient, a deficiency with protein. And so easier ways, and very important to put a protein at every meal, but have enough protein at every meal. So like I would be aiming for 30 grams, around 30 grams of protein every breakfast, lunch, dinner. You can also aim for that for your snacks. You don't have to go as much. It really depends on your overall goals. And so that's when we don't really count calories. I don't believe in like stepping on the scales and sometimes counting calories. And we used to count calories, but it's more important, I think, to really understand what the food is and how to really balance your nutrition versus counting things. Now, I know we're using macro trackers. We can use macro trackers. They help to build sustainable habits. There's a reason why those tools exist. And so, you can see over time how well you're meeting your targets, because it can take a while. It can take some time for a person to really get into the rhythm and understanding how to optimize their nutrition day to day. Now, if you are, let's say, carbs, eating a lot of refined carbs, if they are not the complex carbs, the carbs that offer the steady state blood sugar, you're going to feel energy crashes. You could also experience mood swings. You may also experience headaches, brain fog. We talked about that earlier. Hormonal fluctuations are real as well. And if we're eating too many unhealthy fats, this can also disrupt hormone balance. Can lead to weight gain, can also lead to hot flashes and mood disturbances. So this is a really important piece for us to really nail our nutrition so that our body can, again, preserve muscle mass. We lose muscle. 5 to 8% of our muscle starts to deteriorate after the age 35. So if we are not eating enough protein, we're not going to fuel those, or we're not going to feed the muscles with the protein they need to preserve muscle. This is also key where strength training comes in. So using weights to build a little bit of muscle, right? So that we can actually build stronger body. Muscle, the more muscle you have, the more fat you burn. And so again, we want to anchor it down to balancing our nutrition. Balance our nutrition is so key. And stabilizing our energy so that we aren't experiencing fatigue. So we aren't experiencing those midday crashes. And if we are experiencing gut issues, headaches, mood swings, just overall not feeling well, start to track what you are eating and start to note how you're feeling when you do eat and what you're feeling throughout the day. Is the very first thing that I get clients to do when I'm working with a client one-on-one is a diary, a food diary, because it is so essential. It gives me information just like that. I can pick up where their deficits exist, where maybe foods could be swapped out. Maybe it's simple carbs, not enough protein, not eating enough, going too many hours without eating food. All of those things can contribute. So we really want to try and have that balance. Again, it's not about perfection. It's more about balance and understanding how to fuel our body and what foods work well together. Any questions, Karen?
Chickpeas, we were mentioning chickpeas. What does roasted chickpeas come under? Like if you took that for a snack?
Chickpeas, a chickpea is a chickpea, right? It's a legume.
Yeah.
It's a legume, so it would be a carb.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's actually a good snack.
I kind of was wondering that, but
Yeah, because it has fiber as well, right?
okay.
It would be a wonderful snack. That actually would be also awesome on a salad. And it would also be really great in, I call them like a power bowl. So power bowls are things like you've got, you can make them fresh or roasted vegetables or whatever. But let's think about this. Maybe your base is, we'll build two of them. Brown rice, right? So maybe you have brown rice in the bottom. You've got chicken, say grilled chicken for your protein. The brown rice is your carbohydrate. And you've got your other vegetables. Add some vegetables. Maybe there's broccoli in there. Maybe there's some fresh shredded carrot. Maybe there's tomato, onion, cucumbers. Like, you can blend it with whatever you want. Put it in, and then you can drizzle it with your sauce. So there's lots of options out there with different things you could drizzle on that. Like I love balsamic vinegar. I love that. Balsamic in oil, but you can do different stuff, there's different recipes out there for power bowl. But you could use that. Now, instead of brown rice, maybe you swap out the brown rice and you add sweet potato in that. And you have chicken, or you have beef instead, or maybe it's salmon, right? So you choose your protein, you choose your carb, and then you add your vegetables, and you can throw in avocado or olive oil for your healthy fats, right? Like, you see what I mean? You just put it all together so that you get a little of everything, right? You want that. So it essentially it can become such a, when you understand the kind of the process of putting it together, there is a tool. I don't know if I can find it right now. I'm working on a new meal guide. And as I'm talking to you, and I'm thinking, would be a wonderful tool to show my lovely clients, to gift it to you, because why wouldn't I? I just don't know if I can find it. If I can find it, I can show you what I mean. And then I'm going to let you go. No, look how fast time flies.
Well,
Time
that was very
flies.
interesting.
Time is
It's a
flying.
lot of information. Some, but like the protein, I was quite aware of the protein. The
Yep.
carb, that's going to be, I just have to, it would be helpful for me. I'm a very keep it simple girl. This is what
Yes.
you do. Okay, A, B, C, okay. And
Yep.
not trying to, okay, is that right or is that right? I would really appreciate a sheet that tells you what you need each time, like really with fruit. Like I was kind of used to this other program,
Yes.
and like fruits, you maybe, how I can't even remember how many a day, but the carbs, that's there was carbs, but not at every meal kind of thing.
Okay.
It's going to be just something new for me to work on. I think like I've had steel cut oats in the morning with protein powder and whatnot. I have that for breakfast sometimes. And
Wonderful.
um, what's pumpernickel bread like? Is that okay?
So bread would be considered a carbohydrate,
Yeah.
right? So that would be considered a carb. And I would think that I mean, I could look this up. Pumpernickel bread. I'll look it up. It's not white, right?
No.
So it's not going to fall into I wouldn't think, the high glycemic index, which means like it's not the same as a white refined, right, bread. So it shouldn't be that. So it is, and it offers a wee bit of fiber
Well, that's
and
not
a
a lot of
little bit
fiber.
of protein. So it actually is a dense type of bread, and it's made with a combination of rye flour and whole rye grains. So I think that would be a decent choice. Because if you're aiming for whole grains,
Yeah,
again, keeping it simple, just steer clear of anything white,
okay.
right? Like that's how I like white is starchy, refined. So even like white potatoes, they're higher starch, they're a higher glycemic index than a sweet potato or a yam. However, it's not that you can't have a white potato. It's just I wouldn't be having a lot of white potatoes every night for dinner. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Anything? Yeah. So swapping things, whole grain, whole wheat pasta, moderation, right? Portion size is important as
Could
well.
you also, Michelle, include approximate serving size? Like if you have whole, well, sweet potatoes, for instance, or brown rice, approximately how much you should have for a meal kind of thing.
What I'm going to do, which is easier, it's an even easier guide. Think about protein as like the size of the palm of your hand. And then about like when you make your fist, that size of fist for like like a portion of vegetables. So carbs would be like a cupped hand. So
Okay.
I will drop a little note about this too, but so it's about a half, like it's about half a cup. We actually
Okay.
want carbs, like we do want
Yeah.
carbs, right? And the portion of fats would be about the thumb size, or
Okay.
a little bit more. So yeah, so it is definitely I can offer that. And I
Okay.
fully agree with you. It's like keep it simple. It's got to be simple. Otherwise it's not going to be followed or understood, right? We need to keep it simple.
Okay. Okay. No, that's great.
Awesome. That is great. And when we are balancing our nutrition, right? We are then our body, our hormones are happy. That's what we want. Our gut health is happy, like all the things. So if there's any questions or any thing you want to talk to me one-on-one about, don't hesitate to message me. All
Okay.
right.
Okay, that's awesome.
Yeah, you're welcome. And I will drop some of these notes into our group tomorrow. Okay.
Okay, sounds wonderful.
All right. You
Okay,
have an amazing night. Thank you.
and you too, Michelle. Thank you so
Thanks.
much.
You're
Okay,
welcome. Bye.
bye-bye.